Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we are going to be discussing Sutton Coldfield City Championships that happened just over the weekend. I ended up getting top 4 with Manectric Zapdos, a list that I showed you just the other day. So this should be a lot of fun, and let's get straight into it. So the event was around 70 plus Masters, I don't know the exact number, but we were definitely over 64 because it meant that we had to have 7 rounds of Swiss. Each single game's 30 minutes, with the top 16 all receiving points, which is pretty cool, but it is City Championship, so the points are very minimal, if any, really. So what did we really see? Well, there was tons of Yveltal EX, a remarkably low amount of Virgin around. A lot of people are just not playing it at the moment. I think the speed of other variants around, Yveltal becoming more streamlined, dropping the Garbodor line makes it very difficult for Virgin. Also Mega Manectrics around, as you can see just below it, there's some Manectrics showed up on the day, and Virgin just doesn't really appreciate that lack of pace that it has at the moment, especially because there are flare tools running around, really making it difficult for Virgin to get its attacks off early enough. Also a lot of people are playing Spiritomb at the moment, rendering G-Boost a really useless tactic. As you see, Mega Manectric was around. Myself and Jack both played it. Also, there was a couple of other brave people piloting different types of Manectric lists, be it just as a tech in another Yveltal deck. I saw that happened. Another person was playing it with Zapdos, which is interesting, and there was just other people playing it, so that's good to see. That deck kind of still showing up here and there. It makes sense because of the amount of Yveltal EX that's around, so. There was also a decent showing for Fairy players. A couple of people have picked up Flores EX, and also there were a couple of Aroma Box type lists with the Suicunes and the Aegislashes and different type of walling Pokemon with rainbow energies. There was a couple of Seismitoad around, not many dedicated to Quad Toad, more so just seen as a tech in Yveltal decks and stuff. And also there's still low counts of Donphan around in the UK, so pretty interesting. I think it's because of the amount of Yveltal EX that's being played. A lot of UK players are resorting to playing 3, sometimes even 4 non-EX Yveltal, really making it difficult for Donphan to really make strides in those sort of matchups. So it's understandable why Donphan's seeing less play, because people have pretty much figured out how to beat it. And after it being so dominant early on in the season, everyone wants to counter that deck at the moment. So onto my deck, and like I say, there's a video of it if you want to see the list. But if not, here it is. I thought this would be a good inclusion from my last video, so you can just pause it now if you want to replicate it or do something similar. I felt like it went really well. On reflection, I would have loved to have a second Lysander. Prizing Spirit Link is probably one of the worst things about this deck. Obviously you need it for Mega Manectric. And if you get megaphoned early on or something before you've even mega evolved and you've put one of your Spirit Links down, it can also be kind of painful. So I'm thinking about trying to tinker around with the deck to get a 4th one in there. But then again, I think 3 is the right number. It's just you have to sort of be lucky and not prize any, or use them more conservatively than perhaps I did early on in the day. Also, I found Enhanced Hammer underwhelming. That being said, I didn't play any Donphan on the day, and Enhanced Hammer was really there to slow down Donphan players so they can't wreck you in about 3 turns. So Enhanced Hammer I would keep in if your area's playing a lot of Donphan, but at the moment around the UK there's not much of it. So Donphan, Enhanced Hammer, really not that worth it in my own opinion. But I'll give you one last look at that list. Pause it now if you want to check it out and stuff. I do explain it a lot better in more detail in a previous video, so look for that as well. Moving on to round 1. I sit down with a player who I didn't take his name unfortunately, and he's not a face I've seen around very often, and he was playing Aromatisse Mega Kangaskhan EX, or at least I assume it was Mega Kangaskhan. I only saw the regular Kangaskhan during the game. His list was very odd, I have to say. He played 4 roller skates, high count of trump card for some reason. Very, I don't know, interesting I guess you could call it, but not the most competitive Aromatisse deck that you would see on the day. So this ended up in a win, and the only real threat he caused all game was the Suicune, but I was able to enhanced hammer one of the games where it actually came in handy. A couple of DCEs that he kept trying to put on the Suicune, and then I double Zapdosed it with random spark to knock that out before he really did anything. Most of the game he was just using those roller skates and triple drawing with his Kangaskhan. When he actually started getting energy onto it, I used Mewtwo's and Manectrics to take prizes. The only real hope he had was me decking out, because I kept going through resources as he would just max potion then go back to triple draw. But I always had VS Seekers for ends throughout the game, which he didn't really realise. I did go down to a no card deck, but obviously VS Seeker could end back in like a hand of like 20 or something silly like that. So I was always comfortable in that matchup. He wasn't really posing a threat in terms of damage or anything. So that was quite a comfortable win. But obviously it's a bit of a roguish deck, Aromatisse, and not the most streamlined list or the best list around. So it didn't really give me much insight into how well the deck was going to do all day round. Because of course this is a deck that was relatively untested by me. Mega Manectric, Zapdos, Mewtwo. Pretty weird list as well. So it didn't really shed any light on how my day was going to go. Nevertheless, one win. Round one, can't complain. On to round two. Sit down with Reese Williams, a very good established player in the UK, and he was playing Yveltal, not with Garbodor, just Darkrai and baby Yveltals and stuff like that. I end up getting a Mega Manectric out. He kept using non-EX Yveltals, obviously attacking with them, trying to stack up Yveltals on the bench, the EXs. When I got my first Mega Manectric out, he's able to kill it fairly easily after I take out a couple of non-EXs. And then I have the response in, like, I've got another Manectric on board, and as I go to Skylar for the Spirit Link, I did the foolish thing of not actually counting how many I had in deck, and they were both prized, so that meant that I had to then change my strategy a little bit, go into a Mewtwo to get a kill there, but then of course he could respond a lot easier. I felt comfortable, to be fair, throughout that whole game until that, obviously, the lack of Spirit Link really hurt, because if I hadn't prized those two cards, I would have gone into the Mega EX, 210 HP, I would have been much more safe bringing up that guy, and of course I could have charged up attackers on the bench for the rest of the game. But just the way it was, I guess, just reminds you to keep doing your deck checks. I guess it was just an oversight. I was probably just too excited that I had a good matchup actually seeing Yveltal. Anyway, so that resulted in a round 2 loss. Bit of a shame there. But on to round 3. And round 3, we come up against Lewis, friend of the show, so that's awesome. He was playing a Flores EX deck. And I actually think this is a good matchup for us, because Manectric can also do the whole healing trick, and of course Flores is capped at 120. Early on it went to, he did a couple of Geomancies as I was setting up. He ended up using a Mewtwo to knock out a Mega Manectric EX fairly early on, but in doing so he attached about 6 energy to it, and then I of course Ultra Ball DCE my Mewtwo and wipe all of his energy off the field, and he was just sort of sat there going, oh, I have no board state anymore. So from there I obviously capitalized and was able to roll him from there pretty much. He responded with a couple of Florgus max potions, got back on track a little bit, but I was just 2 ahead on the prize race by then. I think I'd already taken 4, and then it ended up with me having to Lysander a bench Florgus that he couldn't max potion the turn before. So that was quite a good game. Obviously very relaxed and chilled out. We had some good conversations. He's a fun guy, so that's all good stuff. So now I'm sat on 2-1, on to round 4, and we are playing Charles Lamb with Yveltal EX once again. And basically, I got a Mega Manectric up turn 2, swinging at his EX as he couldn't really find anything to bring out apart from a Darkrai. I think then I'm able to Lysander and kill another one, and basically it was about 6 turns maybe the whole game. He really just had no response to it. He seemed to be drawing pretty poorly, on top of the fact that I was taking knockouts from turn 2. So really you can't really put up with that. So that was a very quick round 4. Just a shame for him really to run into Mega Manectric, but I guess that's the whole point of the deck, having good coverage against the most popular deck in format in Yveltal. And as I said before, it was absolutely crammed. The day was full of Yveltal, and you'll see in the top 8 how many actually made it. So round 5 we are up against Nick Pearce. I've played him a couple of times now, and he was playing Quad Seismitoad on the day. He's a very good player, and unfortunately he just had one of those moments. It was turn 2 for him. He'd attached a Water turn 1 to his active Seismitoad, and he attached a DCE to a Bench 1 turn 2, which is just a complete, I don't know, just one of those seconds of madness where you do it and you don't even think about what you've just done, and it means that he can't Quaking Punch turn 2. So I was able to use another turn of Trainers, and that just hurt him too much. It meant that I could get a second Mega Manectric EX out, and once I had that extra turn, that's pretty much all I needed to set up my whole board for the rest of the game. It meant I could Battle Compressor some energy away, so that my Turbo Bolts not only were doing 110 to his Seismitoads, but it set up another one on the bench, and from there I could just switch between them in and out of poison. I don't think he got any heads flips as well on those lasers, or if he did get heads on lasers, I would wake up back on my turn. So combination of him just not having a lot of luck and just a sort of slap on the head moment from an experienced player. I think we've all been there, to be fair. And like I say, I've played him a couple of times before. He's in no way, in my books, a bad player. It's just a slap on the head moment, like a moment of madness that cost him the game, really. I think I would have been pretty safe anyway, because I like how Mewtwo exchanges with Toad and Mega Manectric with that big HP. It's quite nice, but definitely that hurt his chances of winning the game. I think from turn 3 it was fairly clear that I was going to win, so bit of a shame there. I would have loved to have a closer game against him, but that's just how it goes sometimes. 4-1 I end up after round 5. Round 6 I'm up against Scott Simmons. I've played him again a couple of times. Last time I played him, I was actually playing Virgin, and today he was playing Virgin, so that's nice to see. And game 1, oh no, it's only one game this round. He actually prized Deoxys, which is the most painful thing that could probably happen to him. He had a turn where he could have searched for, he found his G booster. I think he actually got that on turn 1, which meant that I couldn't get Spiritomb out quickly enough. So he obviously saw that it was Mega Manectric, and I guess his assumption was that I was playing Headringers and stuff to increase my non-Megas output, the Assault Laser attack that does 120 if you have a tool on. So I imagine he was cautious of that. So he ended up getting a G-Booster on turn 1 to his bench Genesect, and that really would have benefited him, because by about turn 3 I had a full HP Mega Manectric, and he Plasma Ball to search for that Deoxys, and it was prized. And that really, really hurt him, because it meant that my Mega Manectric ended up surviving. I think he Emerald Slash and then had to Megalo Cannon it or something, and I survived with like 10 HP, max potioned, and basically from there I was able to take the win. So it really sucked that he prized that Deoxys. It would have been a close game, but having that prized really sucked. And obviously Mega Manectric does great if your opponent can't knock you out, and that's Virgin's only real way of doing so, with the booster plus Deoxys. And because he didn't have that play, that route of attack, he just had no option against Mega Manectric, and I was able to do my free retreat max potion shenanigans, which this deck loves to do and is very powerful at doing so. So after round 6 I end up 5-1. On to round 7. So I sit down with Terry and we're both 5-1, so we can just ID quite comfortably. Terry, great guy, absolutely hilarious. I love chatting with him, even though he loves to slag me off. We both have banter with each other, so that's good. Yeah, so we sat down and ID'd, but we were still on stream. Actually, the last round as well, round 6, me and Scott were on stream, top table. So if you want to see that at Wakefield TCG, I don't think they've uploaded it yet, but stay tuned for that. I'll probably link it if they ever do bring it out. They're normally quite good at that. They've got a Facebook channel and stuff. Not Facebook, a YouTube channel. So check that out. And they have a Facebook, actually, speaking of. But round 7, we just wanted to do something for the stream, keep people entertained if any of you were watching. And he's playing Yveltal, and he played it with, I think, 3 or 4 Headringer, which really sucked, because he started off megaphoning a Spirit Link early on, and then getting Headringer on my Manectric that I'm starting to set up. It meant it was very difficult for me. I didn't really want to waste the turn to just Mega Evolve, and he ended up putting up a lot of pressure on me. I think he ended up taking back-to-back knockouts with Evil Ball plus Laser on my Mega Manectric EXs, 2 of them. So he was pretty chuffed with that performance, and so he should be, because he's finally won against me. and we were both happy anyway because we've made top cut. So good spirited game and good fun as well on stream. And if you want to watch me get absolutely wrecked by a Yveltal, you should do so. That should be good fun. Anyway, the top 8 looked a little bit something like this. After the 7 rounds of Swiss, Rhys Williams was on top. The Yveltal player that I lost to. Charles Barton in second seed with a Yveltal with a thin Manectric EX line. I think it was a 2-2. So you can see why that would have done well. Manectric, most of them were doing fairly well just because of the amount of Yveltal around. Jack was unfortunate enough to play against one of the only Donphan players on the day, Donphan Trevenant, and that's probably why he miscut. It was one of his losses anyway. Tamao playing Yveltal again. Scott Simmons with Virgin. That's who I played in round 5, or round 6 I should say. There's me, 5th seed, Manectric Zapdos, playing the rogue decks, all good fun. Terry ID'd with me, Yveltal as well. Adam Hawkins with Yveltal, and Tom Hall snuck in there with Machamp. Jack's done a video of a list very similar to his and explained why that's so good. I also get to play him as well, so I'll discuss just how good that deck is and how scary it is to play. It puts you in a real grim situation sometimes, and Tom played the deck absolutely expertly. So in the top 8, I have a rematch against Scott Simmons, and he's playing Virgin, of course. And game 1, I'm able to get the Spiritomb out before he can get G-Booster out. He's pretty much dead drawing all of game 1, which is kind of sucky, but he finally gets a Skylar. It's probably too late by that point anyway, but he ended up... Oh no, what did he do? He top decked Jirachi, I think it was. So he Jirachi'd for Skylar. He was literally top decking. His hand was 0, and whatever he top decked, he insta played pretty much. So Jirachi was the only card he played on this turn. So he Jirachi'd for the Skylar, and he went for the G booster. And then I kindly reminded him that I had Spiritomb in play. So he had to put the booster back in hand, and it pretty much just sealed the game. I think he scooped 2 turns later. So. Round 2, this is of course the top 8, so now is best of 3 1 hour long matches. And game 2, we just do it all again really. Manectric just has a very good matchup against Virgin. When I'm able to get that Spiritomb out, it's just so nice. And I think game 2, he struggles to get Virizion out. I think he started Drifloon because he played it with balloons, at least a 1-1 line. I think it was actually a 2-2. He ended up having to attach to that turn 1, then he attached to Genesect, started getting that going before he even got a Virizion out. So he was sort of doing mid-game Emerald Slashes when really you want to look to do that turn 1 or 2, and that pretty much cost him because I was able to stack up Manectrics and get my energy acceleration going before him. And when there's 2 Mega Manectric EXs set up, it's very difficult to deal with. Just with 2 Max Potion, it's enough to really make it difficult for your opponent. So that's how those games went. Even with Jinx, I should say. Jinx is actually really good. Because Megalo Cannon only doing 100, you can still Victory Kiss and make it very difficult for your opponent to actually 2-shot these Mega Manectrics. So all the healing made it difficult for Virgin. And basically I was able to win from there. So on to top 4. Here are the other results as well. We saw Tom Hall beat a Yveltal deck, so it's obviously viable. It's not like he lucked his way in. I think he ended up 5-1-1, so he had a respectable record. Actually, the top 2 decks after Swiss were 5-0-2, and then the rest of us were 5-1-1, so no one actually bubbled cut. The next person was Scott Burgess, our national champion, on 5-2. So, yeah, Machamp beats a Yveltal. That was, I believe, Rhys Williams' Yveltal. We saw a straight Yveltal deck beat out a Mega Manectric EX deck with Yveltal in it, or Yveltal with Mega Manectric EX, I should say. I don't really know how the game went, because obviously I was in my own matchup, but you would expect the Manectric player to have a good matchup, but then again, I don't know if they were playing Headring or the other Yveltal player. And also, you have to think about the clunkiness of putting both Manectric and Yveltal together would make it in a best of 3 kind of a clunky deck. Pretty good in best of 1 though, you have to say. He got in the top 8, so and then we saw a Yveltal deck get rid of another Yveltal deck in a mirror match, and I think that was Puka, not Puka, what am I saying, Tamao. I think Tamao won that mirror match, and then we saw me beat Virgin, as I just described. So into top 4, and I was looking down the people who I would have loved to play, and if we look back here, Two Yveltals and a Machamp, and of course I get the Machamp player. So this is the real test for Zapdos and Mewtwo. Really the concept is to beat Donphan, and the rationale behind it is because Donphan can't hit hard enough. And well, basically Tom Hall's deck hits like an absolute truck, and obviously Mega Manectric is useless in this matchup because we're really weak to him. And yeah, so basically turn 1, game 1, I start Manectric EX, of course. I'm actually able to get out a Mega Manectric EX and start charging up a Zapdos on the bench with a Turbo Bolt, which is good, I guess. Obviously, giving away the 2 prizes early on didn't help me in that game. But I started to get back in it with Zapdos and Jinx shenanigans. Tom started. His list was very interesting. Check it out. Jack's got a very similar list from what I saw against him, and of course I had a 3-game match with him, so I saw most of his deck. He played Horluchas, of course. He played a high, thick line of Machamp, probably a 4-2-4, I imagine, or a 4-1-4 anyway. He played a couple of Lucario and at least one Landorus EX, so all of these attackers not doing too much to Zapdos. The Lucario, of course, ignores the weakness, so that was doing the most damage. And basically what ended up happening was Tom scramble switched into a Machamp and did Machamp Crush to knock out a Zapdos from a high HP count, because of course with muscle bands and strong energies, this guy's hitting like a truck. So Machamp Crush knocked out a Zapdos from a relatively safe spot. I think it had about 40 damage on it at the time or something like that. And then I respond with a DCE Mewtwo, thinking that I get the knockout, but that's exactly why I've put the Machamp up here in full, so that you can actually read his attack. And the reduction of 40 is before applying weakness and resistance. So obviously that means Mewtwo is only doing 120 instead of, I think it's 120. It's either 120 or 140 when I had a DCE on me. So that's terrible, absolutely terrible. I thought I had the knockout. I would have wiped all of his energy off the board. I thought I was in a winning position from there. And then he kindly reminds me that it's before applying the weakness and resistance. So the Machamp lives, and then the Machamp can kill the Mewtwo. And now I'm sat with 1 prize. He's sat with 1 prize left, and I still have to deal with the Machamp. And the game was pretty much sealed. So on to game 2. And I lead with 2 Zapdoses. I always mention who I led with because it's very important in this game. If I led with Manectrics every game, I think I would have lost every game. But Zapdos, I started off with both of them, got them charged up very early. Tom had a pretty slow start, only having Machops to start with. I ended up random sparking, taking 1 or 2 prizes on Machops early on before he can get anything going. I thought that was the best route of attack because obviously stopping these Machamps, stopping the flow of Machamps coming, not only helps me in how many random sparks I have to do, because of course Machamp means I have to hit 3 random sparks to get knockouts for just 1 prize. It also means that all of his attackers are doing 20 less, so the key is to kill the Machops, but he does play Focus Sash, making it difficult with the active one, so I kept random sparking the bench, taking knockouts on Machops. He's able to get fairly set up, but by this point I've random sparked each of his Machamps once. So when he does do that scramble switch play once again, a Mewtwo does actually come in and take a knockout. And basically he's left with no Machamp left in play. I think 1 Machop and not very many attackers either. So he ends up scooping fairly early into that game. I remember taking 3 or 4 prizes early on against him. Zapdoses were around. And yeah, it was really good setup from me. Just a bad draw from him as well. He was like careenering just for VS Seekers and stuff because he had no hand whatsoever. So on to game 3, and I think I started with Spiritomb this game, and it ended up being quite a good lead actually, because it meant that Tom couldn't use his scramble switch this game, and it's an integral part of his strategy really, that scramble switch. It means that Machamp can attack out of nowhere really. You think you're safe with just the Machamp having 1 energy attached to it, but all of a sudden it's got 3 on it after a scramble switch and an attachment. So having that Spiritomb was quite important. It slowed down his Machamps from actually attacking me. He was mainly attacking with Lucario EXs, not doing enough to Zapdoses really. I also came in with Mewtwo at times to take knockouts, but then he would respond Horlucha and hit for like 160 or almost a knockout anyway. And he ended up taking the game. I think it went to time. It went to time, and he was already up on prizes. So I was just trying to stall. I didn't have enough. I think he was turn 0, and after my turn 1, I didn't have enough energy on the board to actually have any chance of taking the game. So I just sort of retreated and hoped. But he top decked Lysander anyway. I'm pretty confident that he would have had the game in the amount of turns I had left anyway. So Tom went on to the final. Very congratulations to him. I wasn't even mad. Normally I'm fairly upset when I lose, but seeing Machamp, I was just happy to see this deck, how it played, and obviously Tom was chuffed with himself. He's a great guy as well. It was a nice laugh, so that was good to see him in the final with a rogue crazy deck. I appreciate rogues a lot. I love playing rogue decks. As you can see, I'm playing Manectric Zapdos Mewtwo, and I thought I was a crazy one on the day, but of course Tom outdoes me in all regards there. So here is the final. Machamp playing Yveltal. Adam Hawkins is Yveltal, I should mention. And I had to leave for this, unfortunately, so I couldn't stick around to watch the final. I had to catch my train. But interestingly enough, Adam had to do the same thing. So I don't know if Adam conceded after like playing it out for a couple of minutes. I think he definitely sat down to actually play the final, but I don't know if they did all 3 games or if Adam just scooped early to catch his train, because by this time it was around 9ish or something like that, and you know, it was sort of last call to get home, and Adam was in a sticky situation regardless. So either way, a win is a win for Tom. He ended up winning with Machamp, so congratulations to him. The picture on the right is the one that he actually put onto Facebook after winning, so there's his trophy and his 3 attackers that he was very proud of. So well done to Machamp. I'm not actually certain if this is going to be sticking around for a while. The real reason why Machamp's succeeding at the moment is because there's no Garbodor around. Garbodor's really just, I don't know, it's in everyone's binders right now. No one wants to play it. Really because Yveltal is being streamlined at the moment, and if you're the only Yveltal player playing with Garbodor, then you're going to lose in all those mirror matches, and of course Yveltal's the most popular deck right now. Garbodor doesn't really do much against decks like Donphan. It's just clunky cards in your deck. So no one's playing Garbodor, and it means that cards like Machamp, with Karina support, it's really easy to get these guys out. You can candy Machamp from turn 2 quite happily. So yeah, very powerful, and basically it just does an unholy amount of damage. I can't stress enough how important the scramble switch is. The amount of times Tom scramble switch at the perfect time to take a knockout, and basically what he'll do is he'll Machamp Crush for a knockout, and then you have to hit, of course, 190, and there's a reduction of weakness, so the weakness isn't even that much of a problem for Machamp, as people once thought, I imagine. I personally wrote off the card thinking that, oh, I can just put a DC on a Mewtwo and kill it. You can't actually, and in a deck like I was playing without any muscle bands, it makes it kind of hard to kill Machamps. I guess a Mewtwo muscle band does do the trick, but I didn't play it. So Machamp coming in strong there, and yeah, you scramble switch, and if you can't hit 190, he's going to take another 2 prizes on you, and by that time you're really behind, because like I say, he played a couple of Lucario, but if he wanted to, he could just play non-EXs and make you take 6 physical prizes on 6 different Pokemon, rather than going the EX route. So I imagine that's how Tom would have won out a lot of games, just using Horluchas and stuff, because they're really good. They trade nicely against like Yveltal EXs, and you're normally going to win out in that sort of prize exchange. So you can see how the deck works. I'm not completely sold on it, personally, but I mean, well done to Tom for taking it that far. And I guess it's something to look out for in the future, really. And maybe start testing yourself, so it should be good fun. In terms of the next tournament, I normally like to put at the end what the next tournament I'm going to is. I'm not actually sure which one my next one is. I know Wakefield is next weekend, and there's London the week after that, but it may be that I'm going to take a back seat for a couple of weeks until the regionals kick up again. So maybe I'll see you guys at another cities, but until then, that's all from me. I've been Joe from Omnipoke, and see you next time.